somewhat a good class. I think we have a nice broad diversity of interests, but all with a fairly common goal. Surine, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit further and talk about how you got even into this and what you like about it?
So, thank you all for coming. It's really nice to meet you. As Ariel said, I'm Surine, and so I'm the FCS program coordinator for Ada County. What does that mean? So the emphasis for my job is in food safety. So just as we're presenting a class here today on food preservation, we do that at our office where we actually teach the Master Food Safety Advisor program. It was a 6-week course. It's a 7-week course. The Ariel took that I've taken, where it's similar to the Master Gardening program, where we educate you to then take that knowledge and share it with your community. And so, as Ariel said today, we won't be expanding on pressure canning, but we also have single unit courses, single unit workshops at our office going on right now. So for example, this coming week, we do have a pressure canning class that we are doing it hands-on just because of the nature of the food safety involved with that process. We are offering them in the evening at the Ada County Extension office. We have pressure canning, pickling, and then we have safe gifts from the kitchen at the end of the month. But we would like you to know that we are a resource that you can contact with those questions, or I know it's a bit of a trek, but if you're in Boise, stop by our office and we can walk through the procedures with you. Because more than anything, we just want to be providing you with that safe information. I know we provided some handouts back there, but there is a square little note card piece of paper, and it talks about boiling water, which is the method that we're going to be discussing today, boiling water bath canning. And on the back of that, there is the contact information for the Ada County Extension. So Marsha Lockard is the food safety educator, and I am the program coordinator, so I'm her assistant there. So if you ring up and you have, you're canning your green tomato, your dilled green tomatoes, and you have a question on some of it, you can call us there and we can help assist you with that, because the biggest thing is food safety is what we need to worry about. Even if we are talking about pickled items, even foodborne illness can survive in a pickled batch of asparagus. So the biggest thing is, please know that we're a resource that we would like you to utilize. And so hopefully we're going to educate you so that you can take that home and can up your garden. And also, after today, we also have some unique recipes that you may not know about. We've got some pineapple zucchini that I'm obsessed with currently. So we didn't provide that recipe today, but when you signed in, you left your email, we can email that recipe to you. So please know that we want to provide you with those sources, and there are bookmarks back there, and that is also a great source for publications. I know I'm kind of jumping ahead, but I hope that when we do get a break, if you could nab that, because it does have the website for the National Center for Home Food Preservation. That is the USDA that we work with. A lot of our recipes that we use come from that publication, and it is free to access online. You can download it, you can print it at home. We sell them in our office. We have a pub cost, but more than anything, we would like you to know how to access it, especially for free. Vol Blue Books, obviously that's another corporation, but nowadays with the internet, it's great that we have a lot of different options at our fingertips, but we want to make sure that they're safe options. We have a lot of calls that come into our office. Individuals found a great website for holistic health, but then as we start looking at those recipes, we realize that they're very unsafe and potentially dangerous to those who use them in the same method that they're recommending. So we want to make sure that you're aware of these safe sites that are research-based. Any recipe that we give, we want to make sure we can back it up. We don't want to tell you, take those, take those green beans, pop them in your boiling water bath canner for 40 minutes, and as long as it's sealed, it's safe. Because we have research that shows that it could be very dangerous. And so please note, when we get into more of the publications and your resources, please note that you want to make sure that you're following tested recipes. Ball is a great source, but even with that publication, we do need to make adjustments for safety because of our altitude. Because they make everything at sea level. So we'll expand on that later. I get ahead of myself. I get all excited for safe. So, but I do look forward to, as we discuss the different methods today, we also have samples to go with them. And as Ariel said, I've been canning a lot at home, and I'd love to share, do's and don'ts. And you know, your headspace and how those factors, why we have those recommendations, and I can show you why. So I hope that you take something away with that today about packing your jars. So I'm really excited, so thank you for coming. Thank you.
And I think her excitement is obvious, and that's why I was so excited when she said, I can come and help you with that class. So what are we going to be doing today? I want to kind of give you a little breakdown of the day so you know what to expect. We are going to go over hands-on freezing, dehydrating, and boiling water bath canning. We're going to make a pickle. We're going to make a freezer jam, and also talk about freezing berries. And we are going to show you some techniques for making some different fruit leathers, and show you some different other dehydrated products that you can make. But you will all get to hands-on start something in the dehydrator, help work on the pickle, and make the freezer jam. You'll all get to take some of the freezer jam home with you today and put it right in your freezer when you get home. Depending on how many jars we're able to fit in that canner, you may all get to take one of the pickles home with you too. And unfortunately, we can't really sample those today because they won't really taste like anything. It takes several weeks for a pickle to fully develop its flavor. So we're going to do that. For the first part, though, we are going to go over some of the current safety recommendations and bring everybody up to speed. So when we move forward, you are empowered with that new knowledge of how to be safe, and you can kind of make the adjustments as we're working through it and practice those good habits. So number one, safety first, and we might write down even some of these things over there just in case you're taking notes. One of the things we want to start out with is talking about canning. We'll talk a little bit about the issues with freezing and dehydrating, but in general, those are much safer just by their general nature than canning, because when we're canning, we are creating an anaerobic environment inside that jar. And you might think, well, anaerobic, it's sealed, nothing can get in there. But there are anaerobic bacteria, and botulism is one of those. There's a bacteria that grows in without the presence of oxygen. And as it grows, it produces a toxin that it releases. And that toxin is what makes people sick with botulism. You can't smell it, you can't see it, and you can't taste it. And that's why it is so dangerous, and that's why we have to be really, really safe. So when we talk about canning, anything that we are going to can is going to be what we call processed. And that means we are either going to boil it in one of the big boiling water canners for a certain amount of time, or we are going to put it in a pressure canner. And that is so that we can heat the food inside those jars to a hot enough temperature to kill either spoilage bacteria, in the case of the water bath canner, or botulism bacteria, in the case of the pressure canner. And we do different foods in different types of canners. So who knows what we would can in a boiling water bath canner? What would be safe to process that way?
High acid foods.
High acid foods. High acid foods are fruits. High acid foods are vegetables that have been acidified. Okay? So when we're talking about pickles, we are adding enough acid to make that an inhospitable place for bacteria to grow. But if we try to do just regular green beans, or carrots, or just regular beets, we are dealing with a low acid food. So vegetables are on the low side of the pH scale. Actually, the high side, you know, the way that works. But anyway, they don't have enough natural acid to be a safe environment. So that's why we put them in the pressure canner. It heats them to a much higher temperature and kills that bacteria. So the other thing is, though, that high acid foods are not all created equal. So tomatoes. Tomatoes are a curious fruit, right? They really are a fruit, but they fall kind of on the border of acid to alkaline. And they may not be quite acid enough, depending on the variety, depending on just what was in that tomato. So we always want to actually acidify our tomatoes slightly when we're canning them, even though they're a fruit. So we will talk about why we always add a little bit of lemon juice to our tomatoes, whether we're doing whole tomatoes, chopped tomatoes, tomato sauce, anything like that. Now what if we start adding peppers or onions or hamburger into our spaghetti sauce and we want to can it? What do we have to do? We have to pressure can it, absolutely. Anytime we add anything to that tomato, we need to pressure can it. Now what about salsa? Yes, okay. And so salsa is a really important one to talk about because salsas are also not created equal. You start out with tomatoes, which are mostly acid. You're going to add vinegar or lime juice or something like that. But then you're also going to start adding peppers and onions and garlic and all these other things, right, which are low acid. So we can't just take a recipe that we love for a fresh salsa, say,
and put that in a jar and can it. We really have to insist that you only take a recipe that has been tested and found to have the right balance of acids. So a recipe out of any of the resources that Surine was talking about, the USDA book, the Ball Blue Book recipes, they've been looked at by our food scientists and found to have the right ratio of vinegar to low acid vegetables to be safe. And this is one thing where we see a lot of people canning their favorite salsa, and that really makes us scared because that is a really, really good way to make unsafe foods for your family. So we say if you have a salsa recipe that you just love, you know, a pico de gallo or something that's fresh and your favorite, make it fresh, eat it, put it in the refrigerator, freeze it, but don't can that salsa.